Welcome back, viewers. This is Wolfwire Studios, and this is just a quick tutorial for the improved door mechanic that I have in my game right now that I'm implementing. So, if you have seen my last devlog, which I'll try to link in the information card, so you may remember from that part that I was using a very basic system for opening and closing the doors. Thanks to years course tutorial, I was implementing a basic line trace that will open and close the doors. But then I realized that that part wasn't enough. Okay, it used to go something like that. You'll just come close to the door, press F to interact, and a line trace will hit it and the door will open. Simple as that. And you can do the same and close the door by pressing F. So if we look at the code, this was the basic code. We used to you implement this function. Okay, so this is your player blueprint. Okay, and we are just running a line trace, and then we are checking that whatever we have hit, is it a door or not, by checking its validity and checking its tag. If it is, then we are casting, and then we are calling this particular function inside the door blueprint, as you can see here. But this is the improved code, and what does this code do is it will automatically close the door after 3 seconds. So if I move back and wait, it will close the door. And as you can see, it can open it back again, as you can see. So let me just explain this code very quickly. So this is the function that we are implementing. But before that, we are saving the rotation of the mesh. To do such a thing, what you need is one static mesh. This is your door mesh. And just a reminder, your door mesh should have, let me just quickly give it a reference here. This is my door mesh, for example, this example door that we are talking about. And as you can see, the pivot point is right here. Okay, so if I want to rotate, it will rotate like that. It is the left door. Okay, as you can see. So if your model has pivot point at the axis of rotation for the door, then it's all good. If it doesn't, don't freak out. Just use another static mesh. Just use another static mesh here and make this door mesh as the child of that static mesh, the second one. And we will do everything that we are doing here with respect to that parent mesh. Okay, and that parent mesh can be a cube, can be a circle, for that matter it can be anything. You'll just have to rotate that, and since that has the child as the door, so if that parent mesh will rotate, the door will rotate as well because it's a child. So what we are doing is, at begin play, we are saving the rotation. After that, we are just doing some checks. I'll come back to them later on. And then we are using the flip-flop node. On its A section, the first signal, we are playing this timeline. And on the B, the second signal, we are reversing the timeline. The timeline is nothing. It's just going from 0 to 1 in a matter of 1.5 seconds. It's a simple float track. Okay. And I'm using that alpha from the timeline and saving it as a variable. After that, I'm trying to set the relative rotation of this door by using these values. This is the old rotation, as you can see from the begin play. This is the old rotation, and since I only need to rotate on X, I'm just multiplying it. I'm just multiplying this thing. Adding this thing onto this. Basically, you need to add or subtract, given upon the orientation, 90 degrees from the rotation. So in my case, actually it is 87 degrees, as you can see. And in and out is just a multiplier, which will be +1 or -1. And this particular multiplier will decide where the door will rotate, inwards or outwards. Okay. And then we are lerping. So basically we're lerping from this old rotation to the new rotation, which is the addition or subtraction of 90 degrees, 87 degrees. So this is the timeline, which is when running from start to finish, it will open the door, and finish to start, it will close the door. Okay, so this is the timeline, and this is the setting relative rotation node to set it. But what if you want to automatically close the door after a few seconds? Well, what you do is, after the animation, the timeline, just use this set timer by event node, set the handle, okay, and then make a custom event. I named it door automatic close. And then we are checking that is the current relative rotation of the door same as the old one? Basically, this is asking, is our door static? Is our door static? Basically, is our door in a static position? That means it hasn't rotated. If it hasn't, then we'll just clear this timer. As you can see, auto close timer, we'll just clear it. But if it has moved or has rotated, then I'm sorry, yeah, then we'll just quickly go back to the flip-flop node and run it again. So this is the logic of opening, closing, on demand, and auto closing after 3 seconds, as you can see here. Now, these are the preliminary checks. The first check is to see that is this timer active. Basically, if this timer is active, we don't want the line trace to work, right? Since that timer is already automatically closing the door, we don't want the player to interrupt that using the line trace. So we are just using this check. If it is active, we'll just clear it, and yeah, that's all. Basically, if it is active, we are clearing it. If it is not active, then we are moving forward, and we are moving forward like this. As you can see, we are checking the timeline alphas 2 times. Okay, when the timeline alpha is at 0, the door hasn't moved. When the timeline alpha is at 1, the door has moved. Okay, either extremes are depicting that the door has moved, right? But if the alpha is somewhere in between, let's say 0.5 or 0.6, that means the door is in the process of moving and we don't want to interrupt using that line trace. So we are using these simple Boolean checks. If it is 0, cool, we can move ahead. Okay, but if it is not 0, then we are checking that is it 1. If it is not 1, then we don't want to do anything. But if it is 1, that means basically 0 means the door is static, the door hasn't moved, and 1 means the door did move completely. So we are checking both of those things on the flip-flop node, and then we are running the animation. And you should know the basics of flip-flop node. Okay, whenever you are running a flip-flop node, you give it a signal, it runs A. You give it a signal again, basically this is the signal. You give it a signal again, it will run B again. Okay, in my previous iteration of this solution, I was actually running this point here. So what was happening, that was the problem on my end. What was happening is that when this timer used to reset the door so that we can close it, it was going directly to the animation. It was not going to the flip-flop node. But when the player used to interact with it, interact with the door, it was glitching out. Let me just quickly show you guys how I did that. If I do this here and if I play it again, as you can see, I'll go close to the door, press F, it will open correctly. I'll wait for 3 seconds and it will close, right? But if I press F again to open it, see, it plays this again. Why was this happening? Well, because flip-flop node was actually storing it. You pressed F one time and it was using the A value playing from start. Okay. But because of this auto reset, after 3 seconds, you are just manually forcing the animation to be reversed, forcing the timeline to be reversed. But the flip-flop node doesn't know that. So when you press F again, it will fire the B value, replaying this animation from the end. So that's why we see it 2 times. The first time is automatic and the second time is what we do manually. So that is the problem. But by putting it here in the flip-flop node, what happens is when you press F for the first time, it plays from the start. After 3 seconds, this is true. Sorry, basically this thing happens, this thing plays, and it goes back to the flip-flop node. And since the previous signal was with A, now the new signal will execute B and it will reverse from the end. And then when you go back to the door again and press F to open it, it will again run A, which is correct, which is how it should be. That was the reasoning behind me implementing such a thing. So I thought this will be a nice way of making a tutorial and explaining it to you guys how you can set up a hybrid function in which you can manually open and close the door as well, but have an automatic function to close it if you leave it unattended. So yeah, that's it. As you can see, I can press F, I can go close to it, I can press F again and nothing will happen. I can press F again, it will open, I can just go in and wait for 3 seconds and it will close. And since it's a blueprint actor, I can just make any number of child actors with this, and all of these doors you see are using the same master blueprint. They are just the child of the master blueprint. And as you can see, I can open him Again, after opening them, I can just wait for 3 seconds and they'll close again. Simple as that. Now you can adjust the master blueprint, you can add sounds and you can add other effects if you want, but that's the gist of it, guys. So this is the door tutorial, I should say. I know I was doing this in my devlog previously, but then I realized that the more the better, right? So I added some functionality in it. I improved Yusko's tutorial again, thanks to Yusko for his tutorial. And this is the enhanced tutorial of the same. So I hope you guys like it. I tried keeping it short. I hope it was concise. If you have any problem with this, do let me know in the comment section. And you can reach out to me on my social medias and do subscribe because I am making a game and I would love to have the support of you guys while I'm making this. I'm a solo developer making the adaptation of that incident event we call as 13 hours. So yeah. And see you in the next devlog, guys. Thanks and cheers.